Hi everyone. Today I've travelled to an amazing church called St Michael's in Radnorshire. The church has stood here since the 12th century. According to legend, this is one of the 4 churches dedicated to St Michael in this area. They form a protective ring around where the last Welsh dragon sleeps, somewhere here in the forest. If any of the churches are destroyed, the dragon will reawaken. So, like many legends, I'm sure there is some truth in this story, but whether there was once real dragons in the area, or it simply represents the devil, you decide. We'll start off looking inside the church and some of its very interesting features. The church isn't in a very good state. Back in 1877, it was almost a ruin and was rebuilt in 1895. This is a very interesting plaque, and it states that back in 18, and I can't quite make out if that's the 20s or the 70s, £25 was granted to the church towards reseating and restoring this church. All the seats are for the free use of the parishioners according to law. There's a very old looking stoop here in the porch, and as you can see, the ceiling isn't in a very good condition. There's a certificate on the wall stating that the yew in the graveyard is over 500 years old. In actual fact, it's much older than that, and I'll talk about that later. Unfortunately, it's had some storm damage. I was really happy because the door was unlocked. Apparently you can get the key from a local house, but it's much easier just to walk in here and have a look around myself. I tried the light switch and there's no power inside, but luckily it's quite a bright church and this door actually stays open, so lets even more light in, which is great. The font is nice and simple, one of those hexagonal shapes, and believed to be from the 14th century. The door in the background leads to the tower, and I did find out that it is open. I should have left it closed. You'll see what happens later on in the video. There's a collection box, so if you do visit the church, please bring some cash. The biggest problem in this church is the roof, so they're looking to either repair or replace it. It's got those really old tiles on it that weigh a ton, so that will cost a lot of money. Here on the north wall of the nave hangs a framed parchment dug up long ago outside the church building. It is a written abracadabra charm dated to the 17th century and designed to drive out evil spirits. This was used on Elizabeth Lloyd, a female parishioner. She was thought to be possessed, and this was to try and free her from witchcraft. There's a really nice rood screen here from the 15th century, quite simple, but in a very good condition. To be honest, I said that the church was in a bad condition, and that's mainly the outside. The porch is in a poor condition, and the roof definitely needs some work as there's lots of missing tiles, and I would say they were probably the original ones from the restoration back in 1895. But when you walk around the actual church, it's in a really decent condition. I really like the altar area, very beautiful, some very nice woodwork. Just a shame there isn't a stained glass window here. I absolutely love these tiles. We have Matthew, Mark. This symbol represents Jesus in the middle. Then we have Luke and John. Now I have talked about these symbols before. These are all astrology symbols. I assume this is someone's grave, someone important to the church, but I couldn't see any writing on it. Here are some more nice memorial tablets that are hanging on the wall. I couldn't find out if the church was still open for services. It kind of still looks like it does, but there's literally 0 car parking spaces. So if there is meetings here, it must just be for very local people. Apparently, the oldest gravestone in the graveyard is of a John Stevens who died in 1735. I also read that the last burial was done back in 1987, but when I walked around the graveyard, I clearly saw much newer graves than that. And like I always say, I can only go on what I find in books and on the internet. So if you know more about this church, if you're a local yourself, please let me know in the comments, if it's correct and if there is people still being buried here today. Having looked around the church for a while, I noticed the tower door again, so I thought I'd give it a try, see if it is open. It was very dark inside and very damp. I could smell a dampness, and the walls are actually nearly 2 meters thick. So it took me a minute, then I decided to have a closer look inside. So there you go, that noise must have been the bats. Now I'm not too keen on bats, especially when they dive bomb you, so I thought, okay, I've had enough of inside the church, let's go and explore outside. I try and keep this channel as real as possible, so I like to show you the strange things that happen to me on some of the tours, like weird noises and bats, etc. But I keep getting keyboard warriors telling me, why are you scared, and how brave they are. And to be honest, it does my head in. I really haven't got time for bullshittery. So from now on, only subscribers can comment on my videos. So back to some serious topics. We've had some terrible weather here in Wales. Lots of rain. We had snow the other week and then very high winds. And this beautiful yew tree, which I've measured around just under 8 meters, which makes it about 1400 years old, has been damaged. Now this lovely little apple tree, and apple trees are quite rare in graveyards, has uprooted, and when it's fell, it's took part of this yew tree down. I picked this bit up and I was amazed at how heavy it is. It's very dense wood. And as you can see, it's not just a little bit, it's took this whole limb off. Now, the yew tree grows so slowly that on a normal tree, if you lose, like a big branch like this, it will probably grow back fairly soon. But on a yew tree, that could be 100 years plus of growth. So it's a real shame. Looking at it from this angle, you can see the damage it's actually done. And luckily, it seems to have just missed these gravestones. I couldn't see any hidden, but there might be some under the branches. I had a quick look. And you can see a bit of remnants of snow still here, a week later. Now, I've put a picture up now, what that tree used to look like. It actually appears in one of the books I've got. So it's a bit of a shame this is gone, but saying that, I would never eat an apple that I found in the graveyard anyway. Taking a closer look, this tree was on the mound near the tower, and the root system is very small, so it's not surprising the high winds knocked it over. And I noticed all this rubble, and I thought maybe I might find a skeleton or a skull, hidden underneath it. Funny enough, when I got home and did some more research on the church, it's noted that this tower is built upon what may be a prehistoric burial ground. But other reports say it was just built on top of rubble from the original tower. Now, the looks of all the rubble under this tree would suggest it is rubble from the old tower and there's no burial ground there. But I suppose we'll never really know. So I really do hope you enjoyed this video. I've got plenty more that I need to make. It's just finding time, because it's quite hard to make these videos and work full time at the same time. I'll leave you now with some footage from the south side of the church, where there appears to be no graves, and then a bit of drone footage, but it was a very windy day and I nearly lost the drone, so there's only a small bit of that. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.